This is Planning for the Future, the podcast.
Welcome to the show. We're sitting here with Mitch McAbee. He is the president of Dominion Capital Management out of Oklahoma City. Welcome to the show, Mitch.
Hey, great to be here.
So how was your trip here to St. Louis?
Very uneventful, which makes it a great trip. The flights were good. We took flights through Dallas. The unique thing about it, it's actually the first time I've flown this year since COVID. Mm-hmm. And the restaurants, for the most part, were all closed. The specialty shops closed. That was a unique experience. And then the only other challenge here in St. Louis is if you're at the mercy of an Uber driver, hang on and go for the ride.
Right. So, mask up and generally cross your fingers and hope that you're okay.
They will eventually get you there.
What is it like being on a flight right now?
Well, the flight from Dallas to St. Louis was full. They actually, it was full, but it's amazing. They're actually monitoring the facial protection, and I heard numerous attendants go around saying, "Please cover up your nose, and of course that's a new one. And then they're not serving any food or beverage, snacks or even water to coach.
Oh wow!
So it looked like first class was offered some drinks. But no one in coach. And they did announce that before the flight.
Not even like handing out, even just giving them their own can these days.
They were really, really great when you got on. They gave you a little 2x2 packet that you had the opportunity to open, which was a sanitary wipe. That was their extension of their gimmies on the flight.
Wow.
And so and both flights, they were consistent.
Wow, that's crazy. It's a weird new world, isn't it?
Yeah, when you board a plane and here's your sanitary wipe. Oh, by the way, we did wipe it down, but here's one just in case you want it.
Right. And how is Oklahoma City dealing with everything right now?
There's mandatory mask requirement in Oklahoma City and the surrounding locations around town, Edmond, Yukon, different places, and for the most part, though, coming, going, working, still a lot of people working from home. A lot of people, and they're just now adapting to the, are we having school, are we not having school? And that's a daily concern. Is that going to blow up, or are we going to have to, is it going to be home learning on the computer? And feel for the moms. They're getting jerked around a lot. No fault of their own. They're just having to learn to deal with it. But as far as business goes, the building we're in, the parking lot is slowly beginning to fill back up. But there's still several floors where people are working from home, and we understand that it's probably going to stay that way through the first of the year.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of brick and mortar that changes around.
Yeah.
You're going to see a lot of probably emptier businesses, like as far as call centers. I don't see big call centers happening very much anymore.
No, and that's actually two of the floors that are in the building, and they work for a large national entity, and that seems to be the challenge. And as far as tech goes and what people are doing, we're like everyone else that you read about. We've had to resort to our online presentations, our online communications, and I've done more of those in the last 6 months than I ever did.
Right.
And but it's amazing though. We've had clients that I never thought would embrace that perspective, that they've been quite willing, because if they've got something larger than a cell phone that they can actually look at, they will embrace our communication. And when we've even done applications and presented legal documents or even tax returns to someone, we've been able to bring them up on our monitor, share our screen with them, scroll through, answer any question that existed, no different than it's what's been in our office.
Do you find that sometimes they're a little bit more comfortable actually because they're in their own environment and not in an office, which can be intimidating sometimes?
Well, it can be, and I agree. I think they're much more comfortable. I mean, they're either sitting at their dining room table or their computer location in their home, and they are much more at ease. And most of my clients, we're having a conversation. We're just having a conversation, and they like to know that everything is taken care of, and that's my responsibility, is to help them feel like their goal has been resolved, or they know what they're working toward, and that we're managing that effectively.
Well, and the whole goal of long-term care planning is also giving you that peace of mind. So if you're giving them peace of mind at the point of actual contact when you're talking with them, and then you help them get all their ducks in a row, make sure their plans are set right. That gives them that peace of mind as well, and that's one of the big parts of what you do.
Yeah. We've always called it the sleep well planning, and whenever we look at this, everyone's got a different perspective on where they want to go, and that has to do with their upbringing, their jobs, their financial security, whether they've been married, whether they've got children, multiple marriages. There are so many dynamics that come into play. And being able to step back and simply have that conversation, where would you like to be and how would you like for this to go? I would rather start with a person's perception of, when we have to flip a switch and this actually happens, what do you want to have happen at that point? And if we can get there, and that's tough sometimes. It's
right.
Really tough because a guy or his wife, we may be dealing with a 65-year-old, we may be communicating with a 75-year-old. We're talking about our mortality or forfeiting our ability to take care of ourselves. And none of us want to go there. Right. None of us want to think about that perspective. But if we can, if this did happen, what would you want to have happen? And then back into that situation and make it the best that we can make it. And that may mean, where are my children? How are they taken care of? Because if long-term care is going to cost a large amount of money, then where are the financial resources coming from? Are there other resources that need to be protected or discussed or managed? And if we can look at this just to simply determine the roadmap so that you can sleep well, to know that if this did happen, and I hope it doesn't happen, we all do, but if it does happen, will it be taken care of? Will my wife be comfortable? Will my husband be comfortable? Will my family know that we did our planning and that everything is good?
Right. The unfortunate part of all that is 7 out of every 10 over the age of 65 is going to need some sort of long-term care.
Yeah.
In some way, shape, or form, whether it be in-home, whether it be in a long-term care facility, whether it just be someone popping in, they're going to need something. And really, with people living longer, it's becoming more like 7.5%, 7.5 out of 10, so 75% out of every 75 out of every 100 is getting that way. And if you can just get started is what seems to be the biggest hurdle with that. And I think people's perceptions are starting to change, because the difference between long-term care planning in the past and long-term care planning where it is today, it's night and day. Now you have asset-based long-term care planning. It's not that use it or lose it like it used to be.
Yeah, and that's been huge. I mean, throughout my career, so many people, they didn't want to pay those large amounts of money. And then they've also faced huge premium increases. And we won't discuss which companies have done that, but they've been comfortable with their cash outflow, but then received a premium notice where their premium either doubled, tripled, or it's just been scary.
Right.
It's really been scary. And they've had to take a step back and say, can we actually afford this? But if we look at asset-based long-term care, like you just mentioned, if they don't need it, they've still got their assets.
Right.
And there's so much virtue in that because, again, I use the metaphor about sleeping well. It's just having that degree of comfort that just really makes a difference, because when somebody starts looking up statistics, and they usually always know the numbers, it's so easy to get on the internet now, is how long people stay in the nursing home, and they'll see that short time frame that some people are in a nursing home or in a situation where they need help. What you have to remember is that's an average.
Right.
Okay? You may have that other person that we all know that's needed assistance for 15, 20, 30 years.
Right.
Now, I don't know who that person's going to be, and you don't either. You may hope it's not you, but it might be you. But if we can look at this in a manner to say, how do we keep that covered? And if it's asset-based, we're not going to forfeit any money that we've had a big cash outlay. If we have that cash outlay, it's going to be used for our benefit. And that really, really seems to bring about a huge amount of peace of mind.
Sure, absolutely. So with COVID and everything that is going on, do you see people? Well, I mean, obviously, if you ask somebody, where do you want to live? They're all going to say, well, I want to live in my house.
Sure.
But sometimes you'll see people that, hey, I wouldn't mind moving into that retirement sort of community where they have that, facility, and there are people to help if I need it, and they're in the the right area, and then it's just an easier transition if you have to go into more of the sort of complete care.
Yeah. It's and that's again that level of comfort. That, as you mentioned, the retirement planning. We've had clients that have just moved into a retirement facility, very healthy, still have their cars, come and go as they choose, and life is just like it was, except they're not in the home that they were in. They've just changed locations.
And it tends to give them a bigger social life a lot of times.
And it does. And they have meal prep. The wife always likes that part of it because she just doesn't have to take care of that anymore. But they've got their social activities. They've got the meal prep. They've got all of these benefits that come along with the process. But again, if they need something, the transition to that assisted living aspect is not terrifying at that point. Because they've developed relationships and friends that are utilizing that relationship. It's not like there's segmentation in the facility. I mean,
right.
Each person may have a different level of care within that facility. And some, again, like I said, no care. But then as they migrate and progress to those situations, it is so comforting for them to be able to do that.
And it's difficult now. I mean, you used to see those multi-generational households where even if the grandparents or anything didn't live initially with them, with the family, they might move in and everybody's taking care of everybody as it goes along. But because of the highway system is one of the things that really changed everything, and people spread out. Mm-hmm. And then you have snowbirds that decide to go down to Florida or Arizona or wherever they might go in the winter and summer. They have different areas where they live. And you can't really expect your kids to be able to take care of you because that's a huge burden on them.
It really is, and I have a concern that that time in our lives is past. I know it's still very prevalent in other nations around the world. Here, where, as you mentioned, our children. They may be in their 50s now. They may be even in their 60s. They've got their children. They've got their grandchildren. They have that other life that it might be 5 miles from where we live, and it may be 500 or 5,000 miles.
Right.
And to have that expectation to be able to pull them back into your world, it's just not a. I don't know. I hate for people to plan for disappointment. And I believe that if that's the mindset that my children will take care of me, it's probably not going to happen. And that doesn't mean they don't love you. That doesn't mean they don't care for you. They simply have that other life that is so busy that we really can't even talk about how busy it is. And we're not talking about watching television.
Yeah, you're talking about life in general.
We're talking about work. Our 8-hour workday now for a lot of us isn't 8 hours anymore. It's 9 or 10 or more, and we've got kids to get to different places. We've got all of these different activities that are just always pulling us. And, our time is the one thing we can't replace in a day. Right. And somebody's always reaching out trying to get a piece of it, and they want a piece of it. And once again, it's a very difficult conversation to have, that to share with somebody that their children still love them, but they want the best of care for them. And they can't always be there. They can't come in every day.